Hi, and welcome to Jen and Dan's Natural Healing with Plants, the go-to podcast for holistic health seekers looking to harness the power of nature for health and healing. I am Jen, a passionate health educator, whole food plant-based culinary coach, and master herbalist, and I am with my friend Dan, an exercise specialist and wonderful master herbalist. Together, we dive into the world of natural healing, bringing you a wealth of knowledge and practical advice. We draw from both traditional wisdom and modern science with herbs and foods to help you achieve optimal health. So, welcome back. Today, we are talking about a topic close to our hearts. La la la. We're talking about whole food plant-based foods for improving and maintaining the heart.
That's right. That's right. Heart disease is still the number one killer. Across the world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
for men
it,
and women.
yeah, and it doesn't have to be.
No,
Doesn't have to be.
no, and you are in control.
Hmm.
Yes, what is on the end of your fork can make a huge difference in terms of your heart health.
Yeah, I would say that we have more control over our heart health than, most of any other diseases. Because it's already been proven
Mhm.
by doctors and clinically, and studies how well this diet works to keep our hearts healthy. And look, if your heart's not healthy, you're not gonna have a very good life,
No,
you know?
no, no. I've had people in my life who they really struggled. I mean, it was like pain. They had pain, pain in their legs, pain walking, strain in the chest, and they would get stents, and then they wouldn't even feel. So now, two people, one felt better with stents, and one felt actually worse, just more pressure, more meds, and the meds just pile on, and then you have to have meds to counteract the meds, right?
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's horrible. And so let's talk about why we need to avoid red meat. So here in the US, red meat is huge. And so I have to admit, even for me, it was, we would have meat at least a couple of times a day. And then when we started tapering off meat, we got down to where we ate a pound of ground beef that a week and a pound of chicken a week. And so that was how we started tapering off meat. But we did eat a lot of meat to begin with. But meat is very high in saturated fat and high in cholesterol. So red meats, you like a lot of times you want to look for the meat that's marbled, it has all that fat in there that gives you the most flavor. If you're like people when they're shopping for meat, they always look for that. But that's where we have the really the risky foods in there. They raise your LDL cholesterol. That is the one that we want low, L for low. That's a low density, that's higher fat, lower in protein. That's our bad, quote, cholesterol. It increases the risk of atherosclerosis and it hardens the arteries and so forth. There's TMAO formation. Red meat is high in carnitine, which easily is converted into TMAO. Trimethylene in oxide is converted in the gut, if you have a healthy gut. And the elevated TMAO levels are linked to higher risk of heart attacks and strokes. And so we want to keep TMAO lower. And I know, Dan, you can share more about that. And eating causes inflammation. Eating red meat is very inflammatory to the body. And then there's so many different things about it too. So if you think about red meat, like you're making a burger patty, then you make your burger patty and it's pretty big, and then you cook it and it shrinks down, and all those proteins they coagulate, they join together, and so then our body is going to have to break those bonds apart, which means we need a lot of digestive enzymes in the stomach. Protein is digested in the stomach. And so we need lots of digestive enzymes, strong constitution in the stomach, and that decreases the older we get. And so it's harder and harder for our body to process red meat as we age, and we have to be healthy when we get there as well. And we don't need those proteins. We can get all those proteins from other foods. It doesn't have to come from red meat. Anyway, I didn't mean to go on a tangent, but Dan, do you want to talk more about TMAO?
Yeah, you've seen the study with Dr. Greger where once you went vegan, of course your TMAO levels go down, and along with that, your inflammation goes down, your CRP will go down, all those good things that we want, all those bad things that we want to go down. But then they had vegans that have been vegans for, I think, maybe a few years, and they fed them a piece of meat. Now, this was a study they all volunteered for. They fed them a piece of meat, but their TMAO levels didn't go up as high as regular meat eaters.
Mm,
So they've theorized it's because the vegans' guts had gotten healthier over the years from being plant-based.
yeah,
And so why would you eat something that causes this TMAO? If you're concerned with health and longevity, and I talk about health span because I want to be healthy throughout my whole lifespan. If I live to be 80, I want to be working out and being productive to my community and my job, as a coach.
yeah,
So why won't we, do the things that are really good for us? That's what you have.
yeah,
You look, 80 years old, if you make it there, if you think you're going to be healthy at 80, you're going to have to really take care of yourself. Eating a bunch of this meat is not going to help that. And look, it's not just the red meat, there's other things. The processed meats like the bacon and the sausage, oh man, and the deli meats, they're full of nitrates, salt, preservatives. They damage your
yeah,
blood vessels, raise your blood pressure. How many people have blood pressure problems? That's another thing that's easy to fix if with the right diet, and
yeah.
exercise.
Yes. Yes. Right. Yeah. And meat is just so inflammatory and contains so many different chemicals and things that we don't need to add to our body.
Well,
Right.
not to mention, you've seen the studies where when you eat meat, your
Hmm.
body, there's so many bacteria. Even when you cook it, there's still bacteria. So when you
Oh
eat it,
yeah.
your body goes into the immune system gets stimulated. It's trying to attack all the bacteria you just consumed. And so this raises your
Yeah.
inflammation.
Yes. I don't know if you saw it was on the news or documentary or something a few years ago when they had all of the like E. coli breakout, salmonella, might have been salmonella. Anyway, with chickens. And there's a legal amount of bacteria that can be in there because if you cook it, it's going to properly, it's going to kill those bacteria. However, what about the bacteria that is created from the handling? You unwrap the chicken, you put the chicken on the cutting board, you chop it all up with your knife, you transport it to your cooking utensil or whatever, however you're cooking it, and then you cook it. And then you have to clean everything up all along the way. So cleaning up your hands, cleaning up the cutting board, cleaning up the knife, cleaning up any surfaces, cleaning the sink, any of those places where that bacteria touch the faucet handles, all of that stuff has to be cleaned up because that bacteria has spread to all of those different places. But according to the boards, I don't know if it's a chicken board or what, we should be responsible for that. They're not responsible for that. We're responsible for knowing how to safely handle all of these products so that we clean up the bacteria so that we don't get sick from it. It's not their fault. It's our fault for not being able to handle it and prepare it properly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. I,
Yeah.
and I had to say, the meat in the supermarket, you don't know how old that is because they actually put, when it looks red, I saw a documentary where they actually add, was it food coloring or something? Because if they don't add that, the meat's actually gray because it's rotting.
Yeah.
It's not fresh, okay?
Yeah.
It's not something you want to be eating.
Right. And bacteria can still grow even under refrigeration. And so maybe
Yeah.
when they tested it at the slaughterhouse, maybe it only had a little bit of bacteria, but that bacteria has multiplied
Oh yeah.
every minute. And then by the time you purchase it, it has bacteria. Yes. And so bacteria, animal products in general are risky. And so it's not just the meat when we're talking about heart health. So there's a lot of cholesterol in eggs and dairy. And I know there's different studies. There's lots of controversy. Is cholesterol good? Cholesterol bad? People think that eggs are healthy, but just one egg yolk contains 186 milligrams of cholesterol. And if you eat that with dairy, like how many people put cheese on their eggs, then you're adding lots of saturated fat. And so this can really have a harmful effect to the heart. We used to, and when we ate animal products, it was nothing. We'd have scrambled eggs with cheese for breakfast, or maybe a cheese toast with eggs or something like that. And so it's very common to combine those things. And there are just tons and tons of saturated fat, very harmful for the heart. There is IGF-1. We haven't talked about IGF-1, which is insulin-like growth factor. Animal proteins increase IGF-1, which is a hormone linked to cell growth and inflammation, which is also connected to heart disease and cancer. Cell growth, when you hear that something causes cell growth, unless you are an infant growing, we don't need our cells to be growing as adults. So think of cancer when you hear that. And then they're calorie dense, not nutrient dense. And so if we're looking at something like kale, kale has trace amounts of calories, right? But tons and tons of nutrition. Now, can we eat just tons of kale all day and survive? We could, but we would be very hungry. There's no way we could eat enough kale. But in general, our fruits and vegetables are going to be loaded with nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and fiber, but low in calories, where animal products are very, very high in calories and not a lot of nutrients and no fiber at all. And so what we find is when people switch from eating animal products to a vegetable diet, which is what we recommend, whole food, plant-based, what happens is they're not eating enough food. And so then they say, I have to eat protein. I'm not getting my protein. No, you're not getting enough food. You've just given up something that's very calorie dense, very high in fats, and switched it for something that is very low in calories and lower in fat. And so you have to replace those. You still have to eat the same amount of calories and get fat in your diet, just not the harmful kinds of fat.
Yes, there's other problems too. Environmental toxins like to concentrate in animal products like antibiotics. They give them antibiotics, they give them hormones. And now the problem that they're making us aware of, the microplastics, all these things have been
Mm,
found. They're more so in your animal products. And these
yeah.
things compound the risk to your heart and your overall health. It's just you're polluting your body with these things.
Right, right. And then we have to think about what the animals ate
Uh,
too. And so so when we do meet with clients who do insist they need animal products, then I tell them to make sure that well, use your own food if you can. And if not, make sure you know where these products are raised. Are they pasture raised on organically grown fields? Not grain fed. We want grass fed or pasture raised on our organic pastures. And then you want them to be finished in a pasture as well. You don't want them sent off to a feedlot where they are grain fed and fattened up with foods that animals are not supposed to eat. That's beef. With chicken, so we used to raise chickens. And so you want the chickens to you can look it up and see how chickens, like when people say pasture raised, what does that exactly mean? Are they moved to different areas every day? Are they out on pastures and also given chicken feed, which is what is usually they're being fed chicken feed while they're in a pasture, but they're still contained. You just really want to know, find out as much as you can about how the animals were raised before you choose to eat them.
Definitely, definitely. But even the clean grass fed, all these things, it still has the cholesterol and the other harmful things. But I know
Right.
everybody's not going to go full, hopefully plant-based. So if you decide you're going to keep meat in the diet, you know, try to get the cleanest you can find.
But no, it's a risk to your heart.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And so that's number one. If you choose to eat animal products, know that you are risking your heart health and increasing your risk of cancer.
And it'd probably be good, I mean, for everybody, but especially if you're eating a lot of animal products, it'd be a good idea to get your blood work every 6 months just to see how you're
Yes.
doing.
Yes, a full cholesterol panel and inflammatory panels. Check your highly sensitive CRP, check your homocysteine levels to see what's going on in the body. Get an fasting insulin test as well to see how your body is handling insulin. A lot of people think that they can eat a carnivore diet or a diet that is high in animal products and dairy because they see that their blood sugar doesn't go up. Glucose meters, CGMs, they're so popular these days, and you won't notice much of a difference if you eat, in most cases, eat dairy and meat. However, it still increases insulin. And so you may be creating insulin resistance by eating this way, but you can't tell because of the CGM. And so get a fasting insulin, highly sensitive CRP and homocysteine to look for inflammation going on in the body. That's very important. So let's switch over to why a whole food plant-based diet is best. Well, first of all, there's no cholesterol in a whole food plant-based diet. Cholesterol is only in our animal products, and most of our whole foods are naturally low in saturated fats. Now, if we look at tropical nuts and seeds, if we look at coconut, coconut is high in saturated fat. Cashews do have some saturated fat. Macadamia nuts have a little bit. And so, but overall, there's no cholesterol and very low saturated fat. And what I like the most about a whole food plant-based diet is the fiber. So animal products do not contain any fiber at all. People think that when they eat beef or a roast, that chewy, that stuff that gets stuck in your teeth, that is not fiber. Fiber is only in plants, and so you can only get it from plants. Only 5% of Americans meet the minimal requirements for fiber in a day, only 5%. And we have to have fiber to help lower cancer risk and to help with our heart health as well. Fiber will attach to cholesterol and carry it out of the body. A lot of people are concerned about not getting, they say the eggs are fine because we have to have cholesterol, which is true. You do have to have cholesterol, but your body creates its own cholesterol. We don't have to add cholesterol to the diet. And so maybe we need to add more foods or work on improving your liver so that your body creates the cholesterol it needs, but you don't want to add the inflammatory cholesterol that is from foods. You want to increase fiber and help your liver. You want to, so fiber helps with gut health. Your fiber feeds the microbes in the gut, which helps with neurotransmitters. And we have other episodes about this as well. And our whole foods are loaded with phytochemicals. You hear me on every episode talking about eating the rainbow. Those rainbow foods are very anti-inflammatory. They help to lower oxidative stress and they help with the heart.
Oh, also, you're looking at the blood pressure regulation. We had to have, if you're having blood pressure problems, we need potassium, and that's not found in meat either. Potassium is going to be in foods like bananas, sweet potatoes, leafy greens. That helps your blood pressure.
Yeah, all those dark leafy greens. I know, so you can talk about with your personal clients. I know with my clients that have heart conditions, we focus on greens at every meal. So if you only eat 2 meals a day, we make sure that you have lots of greens, lots, not just a measly side salad, but lots of greens at every meal. And if you eat 3 meals a day, a green a smoothie bowl for breakfast or a green juice, even just a celery drink or something. And then green, giant green salad or a soup with greens in it, or some steamed greens or broccoli. Those are all considered greens. And so talk a little bit more about that and what you recommend for your clients.
Well, I tell you, green foods are some of the healthiest foods we can have. They're full of magnesium, they're full of minerals, they have a lot of amino acids. They help reduce inflammation in the body. They even help your body increase nitric oxide production, which is important because nitric oxide, actually, our body, as we get older, our body does not produce as much nitric oxide. So when we eat foods like greens and beets and things, our body helps convert the nitrates in those foods to nitric oxide. And what this does, it expands our arteries, so it helps lower our blood pressure, helps, protect us from having a heart attack or a stroke. And I think greens, they're just one of the most nutrient dense foods that we can eat. So
Yeah.
I recommend collards and spinach and Brussels sprouts and broccoli and asparagus, and they're all so good. I mean, once you eat like this for a while, it's just I crave things like that, you know?
Yes. Yeah, if I go on vacation or somewhere, I can't wait to get back and like I'm like, where's the broccoli?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's our
But
gut buds looking for those.
yeah. Uh-oh. But the thing is, when we eat this way, I tell my clients, eat abundantly. I'm talking, fill your plate with fruits,
Mhm.
vegetables, whole grains, legumes, greens, a little bit of nuts, a little bit of seeds. I mean, look, me and Jennifer are both foodies. I love food. And
Yeah.
this is one of my favorite ways to eat. I'm happier eating plant-based than I ever was when I ate the standard American diet. And I can say that truthfully.
Yes, me too.
You feel
Yeah.
better. It's easier to get lean. Like if I want to lean out, I could do it really fast if I just stick to mostly vegetables and fruit. I can lean out really fast, you know?
Right. Right.
So it's a wonderful lifestyle. And you feel good because in the back of your mind you know that you actually are healthy. I know I'm
Right.
healthy, you know.
Right. Right. Yeah. I know for me, I was able to get so much more creative in the kitchen.
Hmm.
Um, I started looking at food in a whole different way instead of basing all of my meals around meat, which is how I was raised. You have hamburgers and hot dogs with roast beef with barbecue chicken with, well, you have to completely reframe your thought, right? I don't want to just have, you know, instead of meatloaf with green beans and mashed potatoes, I don't want to just have the green beans and mashed potatoes. I'm going to need something else with that. And so it's, what can I have with that? And what colors am I missing from that plate that I can add to it so that I get, full, which I like to use beans. Some people use beans and grains. I like beans. I like lentils, very high in protein, very high in B vitamins, very, very high in fiber. And so I like to add beans to fill my plate. And learning how to use beans to make, instead of a meatloaf, then I make a lentil loaf, or I make some kind of meatballs out of lentils, or maybe with walnuts or something like that, which I know there are different camps when it comes to nuts, but I do use a lot of nuts and seeds for me. But I don't have a family history of heart disease like some people. I think that if you do have a family history like that, then you do need to watch some of these fats. So let's talk about some of the studies. Tell us about some of the studies in heart disease.
Well, the first doctor was Dean Ornish. I think that was around 1990. He designed a program with a whole food plant-based diet, and he also threw in some stress reduction and exercise. And I think he's the first doctor to show that he had actually reversed heart disease in some of the patients. Like they actually had, clogged arteries. Say it was 90% obstructed, and it would go down to maybe 50%, 40%. And then I think Caldwell Esselstyn I'm sure he was doing this at the same time Dean Ornish was. And Esselstyn come out with groundbreaking studies. I think his first study took 14 heart patients. And these people, the heart disease had gotten so bad that there was nothing else that could be done for them. They couldn't do any more surgery. They couldn't give them any more drugs. Some of these people were so sick, even if they were to just recline in a recliner, their heart would actually start to go into arrhythmia because the heart was so weak. So Esselstyn took these people and he said, look, if you're going to be in the study, you have to promise me that you do not go off the diet at all. And so it was whole food plant-based diet, no oil, limited salt and sugar. And the people I think 12 of the 14 stuck to the diet. And those 12 people, he followed them for years, I think 20 or 30 years. They did not have another heart attack or a stroke. In fact, they actually healed and had, fruitful lives after that, this was groundbreaking. It's never happened
Mm,
before. And then Esselstyn, I think in 2014 or 15, did another study. This time he used 200 participants and they all had some form of heart disease, different levels. And the ones who stuck to the diet, 99% success rate,
yeah,
99% no more heart attacks.
yeah,
I mean, why don't everybody should know about this? But even these studies are still kind of like there's still people trying to push back. And Esselstyn said It's the lobbyists, it's the meat and dairy industry. He said, you will not believe how much power these
Yeah.
organizations have. And they push back against him.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, I love those studies, and I liked seeing the pictures, the X-rays, when he
oh,
showed the arteries that were there, and then you couldn't see, you could hardly even see them, and then you could see them, and they cleaned all up. Yeah, it was awesome.
the
Yeah, and
Widowmaker. Yeah. You see the Widowmaker one? That it's one of his colleagues. I think it was like
yeah,
80% blocked.
hmm
32, I think it was 32 months later,
hmm
the artery had completely opened back up. But this
yeah,
guy, I guarantee you, was 100% compliant. He didn't go off the diet
right,
at all. It
yeah,
takes 100% to do this.
right. Well, and all of his clients were ones that doctors said there was nothing else they could do.
Yep.
Yeah, and so it's just amazing, the results too. Yeah, and so we haven't talked about the blue zones either.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, yeah, the blue zones are regions around the world where people live the longest and have the lowest rates of chronic diseases, including heart disease. And most of them do eat plant-based and don't have any heart disease. And so, not all of them are 100% whole food plant-based, but most of them are, and the healthier ones and the ones that live the longest are as well.
And then, of course, you can look at the China study. If you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
look, that was a 30 years. What was his name?
T. Colin Campbell.
Yes, yes,
Mhm,
30 years he studied and proved that this diet is the healthiest diet as far as preventing heart disease, preventing certain cancers. It even helps prevent, certain types of arthritis. We could go, I saw an article today, it can prevent up to 80% of our modern diseases and improve them.
mhm.
Who wouldn't want
Yeah,
to do this?
right. And so let's talk a little bit more about his study as well, because when he started his study, it was looking at protein for children. I don't know if you remember that. Did you read the book?
I didn't read
So
all of it, but I
I
know
read the
about the
book
protein.
several years ago, but so he went in and studied to talk about how inefficient the soy diet was, like the kids who were sick, that kinds of things. He was like looking at childhood nutrition, if I remember correctly. And so he was trying to prove the need for the animal proteins versus like using legumes, peanut butter and soy and stuff like that. And what he found was the children who were healthy were the ones eating the peanut butter and the soy, and the children who were not were the ones who were eating the animal products. And he came from a background, from a farming background, was raised on a farm and things like that. And so it totally went against his own personal beliefs. And he gave up animal products early on and in the study, and then continued to study from there. And so this is, someone who was totally on the other side, who he's not the only doctor. There's tons
No.
of MDs who started one way, did the research, and then realized this is the way to eat. Like Dr. Kim Williams says there's two types of cardiologists when it comes to whether or not they are vegan. And it's the ones who read the studies and the ones who have not. And I believe he was president of one of the cardiology boards. I don't know if you remember. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, I love that. And like Dr. Christy Funk, this is not, she's a breast cancer doctor. She's a famous one. She did the surgeries for some famous people, and she has a book, the owner's manual. But the same thing, she was eating, I don't know if it was paleo or what, but mostly a lot of meat and cheese. She said she was actually giving her kids, I think it was turkey roll-ups with cheese in them, when she was studying about the harmful effects of meat. And she said she ran downstairs and grabbed a garbage bag and threw everything away in the refrigerator. And now she teaches her clients too, to eat whole food, plant-based, for cancer. But the same thing is related. It's the diet that's for heart health, is the diet that's for cancer prevention, and more. It's for gut health as well. And so it's really the way to go. So let's talk about some tips to transition to whole food, plant-based eating.
Well, one of the things that I like to do is I ask a client, what was one of your healthiest, or what was one of your favorite dinners?
Yeah.
I don't know, it could be whatever. And then whatever it is, I help them find plant-based alternatives. They can actually recreate this meal, maybe
Mhm.
using things like soy or even seitan if you can, stomach the gluten, which I don't do that, but there's ways around this. And you start small. I've seen people go cold turkey,
Yeah.
and many people can't stick to that. I like to
Right.
see small steps, like maybe have a meatless Monday for a while
Uh-huh.
and start to transition, start to lower the amount of meat and dairy in your diet week by week, start to lower it and start adding in more beans to replace the meat, more lentils and tofu. I also want to point out, if you're worried about your protein, there's there's a study out now proving they did a study with these women. One group had meat protein, the other one had, I think it was beans. Another one had beans and grains. They found no difference between muscle protein synthesis. You couldn't tell who
Right.
was eating what because the protein synthesis was the same. There's no
Right.
difference. There's no such thing as animal protein is better than plant protein. Plant protein does the same thing animal protein does, but without all the ill health effects. So don't
And the
worry about that.
and the inflammation and all of that too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like that. So that when we transitioned, we did the meatless Mondays.
Hmm.
And then we went to meat only when we on the weekends. And then we went to only when we went out to eat, like that and stuff. But we were still eating cheese. We still ate cheese for years and years. It took a long time to give up the cheese.
Yeah.
And when we decided to give up cheese, it was really having to look at everything in a totally different way, because it was like cheese toast for breakfast, cheese on lunch, cheese and whatever we were eating for dinner. And so it was cheese 3 times a day. And so that was really, really difficult. And what I wanted to do was find a cheese replacement, which is not the right way to go. You're not going to find something that's going to replace your cheese. So cheese, we have other episodes about this, but cheese activates the same chemicals in your body as like morphine. And so you get that feel good feeling. If you think about it like a baby wants breast milk. They crave that breast milk, they drink it, and then they're comatose. They kind of pass out. And that we get that same effect when we eat something like cheese. It's like a drug. And so when you're eating a cheese replacement, you're not getting that same feeling, but you're not getting the same taste. I haven't found a cheese replacement that really tastes exactly like cheese. You have to give it up for a while. You have to think of your foods in a totally different way. Make foods, not every food has to have cheese on it. Um, and so it's making foods that you wouldn't include cheese for a few weeks. And then you can start playing around with some cheese replacements so that you're not trying to match for like if you're wanting to have a cheeseburger and find a good replacement for that, you're not going, today I eat a cheeseburger and tomorrow I eat a bean burger with a fake cheese and I'm gonna be like, this is terrible. You have to think of things in a totally different way. But focusing on whole foods, I don't want you to switch to junk food. Nothing in boxes and bags, looking at the rainbow. When you look at your meal, do you have all the different colors on your plate? Because that's where you get all of the nutrients, the chemicals, the phytochemicals that you need, and play around with it. Like I said, I'm so much more creative eating this way than I was before. And there's tons of recipes out there too.
Yeah. The recipes are a really big deal. That's why I try to tell all my clients, get some recipes, pick five and get ones that you really love, get ones that you really like to eat. I mean, and look, I don't know this guy. He's one of my favorite. His name is brandnewvegan.com. His recipes are really good. He's more like a McDougal style.
Hmm.
But like you're saying, I see here, you could do like lentil shepherd's pie. You could do chickpea curry. You can plant-based anything. You can take pretty much anything and make a plant-based version. And it's fun because you have to use your creativity and
Hmm.
it's to me it's a fun process. I can look at a normal recipe now and I can make it plant-based because I've
Yeah,
been doing this so long, you know?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, something else that helps is look at one meal a day. Like if you have animal product in your breakfast, start with breakfast and let's just make a whole food plant-based breakfast for the week. Maybe that is a a granola. Make sure you're making sure it's not full of sugar. You want a healthy granola, or a chia pudding, or a tofu scramble, or something like that, and master breakfast. And then go to the next meal. What's another meal? Go into lunch. You can go to Chipotle. That's easy to do Chipotle vegan. Doing, finding places like that, going to Wendy's and getting a potato and a salad, something like that. Now, if you're watching blood sugar, that may spike your blood sugar eating a white potato with the salad, but there are other places that you can go and find things. Go to a steakhouse, believe it or not, and get a salad. They have really good salads. You don't have to get the steak, get the salad, and things like that. And so I like to pick one meal and work your way up. Master that, master the next meal, and then get, like Dan said, get creative. And I have lots of recipes too. And so if you um, go to my website, holisticgen.com, there are links to some recipes. I have a couple of free recipe books. I even have a cookbook you could pay for. And then I also have some freebies as well too. So lots of recipes, and on my YouTube as well, I have recipes and videos to show you how to make dairy-free salad dressings that are super simple as well. Yes, so do you have anything else you'd like to add before we wrap it up?
Just stay consistent. You don't have to be perfect at first, maybe even ever, but a lot of people are hard on themselves.
Yeah,
I just want you to do better. I want you to get healthy. That's what I do this for. And
yeah.
so just do your best.
Yes, yes. Yes. And so thank you for joining us today. And remember that we love to hear from you. So if you have some tips on going whole food plant-based, maybe you don't even agree with us. Maybe you think that you do need animal products. We want to hear from you too. But if you like this episode, please like and subscribe to our channel and share it with your friends and family. And so I want to thank you for joining us. I hope this inspires you to take charge of your health and the health of your heart. You can find me at holisticgen.com. And you can find Dan at danthenaturalman.com. And so until next week, keep healing with plants and take care of your heart.